So, hello.
Hi there.
To start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
Certainly. So I'm Judith Underhill, and I'm in the UK, sort of Middle England, you'd call it, Lincolnshire. So yeah, that's where I am this very dull afternoon.
Oh, okay. So, the first real question, as you know, is who are you as a human being? And that can be anything you want to share about yourself, maybe in terms of passions or values or qualities.
Mm. Yeah, and it's such a huge question. I always think that it kind of links to me with, why am I here and what's my purpose and am I doing it well enough? So who am I as a human being? So I've been on this planet and around the sun for 60 years now, so just reached 60 this year. I've had probably a double career life. I started off in finance and left that to meander on my own and find out what I really wanted to do in 1999, 2000. And I guess really, if I do think about it deeply, I am a sum total of my life experiences, but I also even now see that there's so much potential there that bubbles away inside me and wants to come forward. I love the outdoors. That's where I'm happiest, is being in open space and outdoors. I love being barefoot and just feeling the earth. As I've gone through my life, my interests have grown so much. Far more interested in the earth now and the impact we have on it, and amazed by the sky and the stars, and yeah, just wonder, have I done the very best I can while I've been here, and what more can I do as I travel through my future years?
Okay. And what would you say are some of your central values as you sit on this planet and live this life?
Mm. I would honestly want to be remembered for kindness and compassion. I'd want to be remembered for supporting and helping others. I would love that people would say about me that I care deeply for others and for the planet. And yeah, they're my values. It is, I think, as I've moved through my life, I've wanted to discover, and am just discovering, the gentleness of myself. I think I've been really very self-critical and harsh, especially in my younger years. And so, wanting to tread my path in a more gentler way for others and myself now has become probably a deep value for me.
Okay. And I'm wondering what comes to mind as a particular event or as a set of circumstances in your life that you would say have really shaped you.
Mm, mm. I think there's quite a few. I think when I decided to leave corporate life was an incredible time for me, because I think I've just been brought up on security and risk averseness, and having a job was kind of the thread that ran through our family. And when I made the decision to, there was a conversation that was had at the time, because the place I worked was being taken over by the organisation. I can remember a couple of my male colleagues having a conversation and saying, do you know what, this is not great, I'm not looking forward to it, but I'm only 15 years off retirement. And it was that really freaked me out, because I was not 15 years off retirement at that stage, but 15 years was going to be an awful long time. You know, it would take my son into manhood. And I'm just thinking how easy it rolled off somebody's tongue to say, oh, I can hang out here, however bad it is, for 15 years. And I just thought, I can't do that. I can't hang about for 15 years in something that I'm not even enjoying anymore. So, without really much planning or thought about it, I realized that I wanted to work in a completely different field. I wanted to explore more. I wanted to start fulfilling some of the things that I'd never done before. And, to do that, I had to have risk and non-security attached to it. So I guess in 2000, that's when my world kind of imploded, and transition and transformation had to take place. So I left, and like I say, had nowhere to go to. I really hadn't got a plan, which was unusual. And I took myself off to walk the Inca Trail. And that was incredible at the time, because I had lots. You walk the Inca Trail on your own, even though you're with a group. You have to do it at your own pace. And the guide said to me, if you do it fast and look down, you'll miss so much beauty. You have to do it at your own pace. And so there was a lot of the time I was just doing it on my own and looking up, and seeing amazing things like a hummingbird, literally sitting next to a hummingbird on a plant. And it was kind of there, I had, we're everything and nothing. We're so big and so small, and we're significant and insignificant. All the polarities, the paradoxes came up for me that, sort of said, wow, this life is not meant to be squandered. This life is not meant to be, doing what everybody expects of you. But it's been a tussle that I've had, about, pleasing people and going my own way and keeping, some sort of harmony, and then having to allow conflict in. So all of those, have come up for me probably in the past 20 years more so than ever, because what I think I did in 2000 was take all my internal conflict about where I was and said, okay, let it come out to everybody else and the world. So that was a pivotal moment. And then I went and did part-time back at university. And that's interesting, because I went back to university because I never went the first time. So again, that was something that I needed to do, and that was really enlightening for me. That was a tough time as well, to find who I was in the place of academia. And then latterly, obviously, being part of the JISC community and meeting Carol Brockman, who's had a huge influence on my life, and Joe Melnick's been there. But yeah, and I feel settled. I feel I found the path that I'm really comfortable to walk.
It's interesting. I've heard a few trail and Camino stories, the Camino de Santiago and now the Inca Trail. That's interesting. And I'm just smiling because I kept thinking to myself as you were talking, I don't think the hummingbird would have been impressed with your career in finance, but probably appreciated your gentleness.
Absolutely. The amazing thing about that is it was at the start of cell phones, you can't even think that, you think we've always had cell links at the start, so they didn't work.
I'm still pre-cell phone generation. Don't
yeah,
worry.
yeah. So they and that was just fabulous as well, because you were out there for 6 days, and yeah, you really were walking in your own boots, walking with yourself, walking with your conundrums, walking with your own discombobulation, and yeah, it shifts something.
So that was process, and I'm curious about people. You mentioned Joe and Carol, and I'm wondering if it's them or someone from a different part of your life, but who would you consider one of the more significant influences on yourself and your life?
Undoubtedly Carol. And yeah, I mean, what would I say about Carol? She's my guide, my mentor, my role model. She is probably the wisest person I've ever been in that space with. So yeah, Carol's been a great guide for me, and she came into my life probably around 2012 time. Time just disappears, you kind of lose dates of things, and that's a really good question, because pre-Carol, I'm not sure I could say who has been a big influencer for me. My husband is a linchpin. He's the what would I call him? He's a steady person. When I come up with this next mad walk or place that I want to go to, he's a steadying influence of allowing the space and the what it is I need to do while staying at home and making sure everything ticks. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's really funny because I look back to school days, and there was nothing there. I really didn't enjoy school. I didn't find learning particularly enjoyable. I was really quite a quiet child, and so probably you would say introverted, so didn't have loads of connections or big networks. And it was just, if I look back, it's just you tumble through school, you come out with whatever qualifications you come out with, and then you go to work. And I was rereading some of my really old school reports that says, this is a very quiet young lady who, is happiest just in her own company. And I was just thinking, I can't remember being that quiet, but obviously that's the impact that I was having on teachers. So, and then literally left school, went into finance and stayed there for 18 years. And I think I meandered through that. If I'm being honest, maybe I probably was a lost soul during that time. Yeah, so yeah, not a huge amount, Heather, come forward for me.
No, that's fair. So I'm curious. I'm reminded of a friend who I met him in his early 80s, and he said, I think I've lived about 5 lifetimes in one. It sounds like you've gone through a few yourself already.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you are experiencing the age that you're at right now.
Oh, I love that question. I don't know if it would have been different if we hadn't been in lockdown. That's what I find this question amazing. So I became a grandmother in, so Primrose is 1, so that was a real milestone for me to become a grandmother. And as 60 approached, I started to recognise the tendency to say, oh, I just won't bother telling anybody about my age because, you know, yeah, I don't really, yeah, maybe I haven't accepted it, I don't know. And then as my birthday approached, I was really comfortable saying, you know, yeah, this is who I am now, this is where I am. And I realised I shocked quite a few people because I'd kind of never mentioned age before. And, you know, one of my clients said, wow, really? Are you going to stop working for us soon? And I went, no, not at all. And they said, oh, that's great, because we had no idea that you were 60. So I'm really comfortable with it. And surprising, that's a surprise for me. That was a surprise. But yeah, and I do think there's still so much that I like the living 5 lifetimes in one life, because I think that, yeah, I think there's another lifetime around the corner still to come out yet that I haven't found.
You look really excited about that.
That I'm going to discover. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about another aspect of yourself? How do you experience and understand yourself within your gender or as a woman?
Yeah, that's another lovely question. And I guess that's something else that's had to transition and blossom. I think being a child of the 60s, it was a very male-dominated society then. You know, if I reflect back to my first career, you know, there wasn't any expectations on you to move up a ladder anywhere. And you know, you had to definitely prove yourself 4 times more than your male colleagues at that time. But that has certainly changed now. That's not my experience. But as I see it, I'm really comfortable now with who I am as a female. And I think there's probably been times when I haven't, or I've wanted to change aspects of myself to fit and gel into whatever group that I was in. Whereas now I see it much more a comfortableness with who I am and how I present myself. And yeah, it's a really good question. It's probably one that I've not really given a huge amount of thought to. But I think I've become more comfortable in my own skin. So I'm able to present who I am, not who I think people want me to be.
And what about the experience of power and privilege in your life? How is that for you? What is that like?
I still encounter that. I still encounter that a lot. I am having a lot of discussions about, you know, inequality, power, you know, white privilege. I still see that a lot. It saddens me a huge amount, and I do wonder, you know, what else I can be doing around that now. There was an interesting conversation that I was having about an organisation that I do some work for, giving back social value. But when you scratch the surface of what that means to an organisation, it can reflect on what can we do to make ourselves gain more work or be thought of, so we could, attract more clients. So I think there's a huge amount of work to do in this arena, huge amount. Inequality really does bother me. We've seen it in lockdown, the polarities of the way people think, is really coming to the forefront for me. Privilege, wow, I mean, that's just so big. And yeah, I am white privileged. So for me, it's I think what I can do is start having the conversations about it and see where those conversations go to, and where we can do something in our field as coaches or supervisors, just to raise the whole awareness. I did one of the just white privilege with Carol, and it was really strange, because a couple have said, isn't it funny that most of us all of us on this call are white, and we're talking about this. And and Carol said something really quite astounding. She says, yes, but it's not a black problem. And we have to start thinking about this so much differently. We've put the mirror away from ourselves for far too long, and we now need to turn the mirror around. And absolutely, I get that. So yeah, it's a big thing in my thoughts at the moment, and how and what can be done.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So flipping around a little bit, and maybe this is a space where some of those things can be done.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about your Gestalt self. I mean, starting with how you found it. I'm assuming it was part of sort of that midlife shift.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what happened? How did you get together?
Well, it was part of my uni course when I went back to university, which I never went to the first time, but let's say I went back to it. So it was obviously a dream part of me. So it was part of that. That was my introduction into Gestalt. And I then took a Gestalt supervisor. So that would have been about 2005, and that was my ever first introduction to it. But there was just something that got me involved, got me excited about the concept of it, and how it was. And then I never really did. I looked at Cape Cod for probably quite a few years after that, and thought, I don't know, I'm not sure. All my self-doubt came back in about whether I could, immerse myself into a community like that. But then I found out that they were bringing it over to the UK. So that was my real first big wow of, this is great. This is it. So I've been hooked.
Is a big wow like the big Satori instead of the little Satori?
And my regret, and we do have to live with our regrets, is that I never connected or found it sooner, because I think there was I'm catching up. I'm running as fast as I can. I don't know if that makes any sense to you, but I just I never, until 2005, I don't think I ever heard the word Gestalt. So it sneaked in through the back door, and then I opened the front door and let it and wanted to enter it fully. So that's where I've been, and even now I feel like I'm at 60, whatever this means, a beginner.
Well, I mean, I had the funny other side of that, is that I came into my Gestalt training when I was about 23 and ended up, running a postgraduate program when I was still in my 20s, in my early 30s, and most of my
Yeah.
students were 20 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I had it early and didn't really know what to do with it. And then it's interesting to see
Yeah.
people meeting this at different phases in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I noticed my little, oh, I wanted that come up when you said that. And it's so funny, to think, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's truly
Yes.
blessed. And yet it is what it is at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what is it that you found in Gestalt?
Mm.
What kept you there? What's got you excited about it?
This is not, I will go on to my answer, but the first thing that comes to mind is a home. I found it's a place where, I can take my boots off and do the barefoot walking. I feel that there is such a match to my values, and I feel that there's so much. I really, I really enjoyed the turn that it gave me of, actually look at what's well developed, and look at the experiments that you can do to try something different. And so what it's really done for me, and it was a gentle unraveling. It has created a space in me where I can be more forgiving of myself, and that's the theme I think that runs through my life. And this is what Gestalt has done a lot for me. It's allowed me to, flip that dark inner critic that I can have, that that huge yada on my shoulder that's always been the not good enough, the not quite there yet, the too quiet, the not fully engaged, so all the yada that I can, that I've accumulated over my lifetime, being part of the Gestalt community has given me this home that has allowed me to experiment in being kinder to myself, because I can't have the values that I have for others unless I can do it for myself first. And there's been some tough times, being so critical of yourself, so mean to yourself, took some time to shift. But being part of the community, being in the Gestalt environment, has helped me pull that thread to unpick some deep-rooted inner critic. Yada.
So when you say Gestalt community, what does that
Yeah.
mean to you?
It means my tribe. So the tribe that I've created with the people that I've gone through my Gestalt journey with. So they've grown much stronger for me. The conversations I'm having are with the people that I've gone through the journey with. So I've got so I'm part of the so I've got a supervision group. I've got my one-to-one with Carol. I've got the Cape Cod group that I've gone through the years with. So they're all really important to me. They're a really important part of my conversations and connections, and they're the people I share my life with.
Well, okay. And so how has your contact with Gestalt and your work in Gestalt affected you as a person? I mean, you've said it's tempered that inner critic, but how has that affected you?
Okay, it's made me more courageous. It's made me braver. It's helped me to find my voice. It's helped me to find my worthiness. It's helped me to understand that I can do something like this, and it's my story. And if nobody is interested in my story, that's absolutely fine. Whereas I think 5 years, 6 years ago, you know, I wouldn't have entertained doing anything like this, because who would be interested? And it doesn't matter if they're interested or not. But if nobody was interested, you know, 6, 7 years ago, that would have stopped me doing anything. So it's made me step into this space and come and talk to you, and it's made me so much less judgmental of myself. So it has had a huge impact. I think for me, it's had a huge impact. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm wondering what some of the challenges that you have run up against in this Gestalt phase of your life have been.
Yeah, I have run up against challenges because, you know, at the start of this particular phase in this journey, I think one of my biggest challenges was being able to articulate what I was feeling. So being able to hold the space in me to discover what was being aroused. So you know, having had a lifetime before of being able to shut off or shut down or withdraw, or, you know, if I became overwhelmed, you know, the easiest thing was to do, oh, okay, we'll just shut off. So the challenge has always been for me to get into a space where I can explore, articulate what's coming up, what's being aroused in me, and that took some time. Yeah, you know, that did take some time to find the descriptives or what it was to absolutely understand my emotions, and, you know, what happens when I get into overwhelm, and, you know, what happens when bigger, larger personalities can enter into my space or my room. So that has been a challenge for me, but it was a challenge that I would do 1,000 times again to get to where I am, you know. And there's been many times I've fought and I've closed off again, and, you know, this is just too difficult. So I would do the challenges all over again to actually get me to where I am now.
Okay. I'm also interested to know what you are doing or have done with this Gestalt thing. Like, are you shuttling this between that corporate finance world still? Are you bridging it at all? Or what is the nature of your work or your practice?
So my main work is executive coaching. So I do that in a number of different places. So I work in both public and the private sector. So I can work in whatever sector really I'm interested to work in. I do a lot in the construction sector, and I do a lot with females in the construction sector, which again has been really, the Gestalt work that I've done has been really helpful, because obviously females in the construction sector are really underrepresented, and they have a hard time. They have a really hard time because you know, their emotions are different from a lot of the men that they come across on the construction sites or the contractors. So, you know, if a project isn't going to plan, it's a male's approach to it or getting angry would be completely different from, you know, what a female would do, who sometimes has to literally find a toilet somewhere that is probably hidden away and not very nice and cry. So what I do is it's been hugely helpful for me in that field of work, and especially supporting females in such an they're so underrepresented. So I've been doing work with a couple of my clients on a women's development program to help them to understand how they can respond, how they can do their own experiments, how they can help themselves in this space. So that's another key element of my work. And I also do supervision now of coaches, because I realise that, you know, I'm really happy to help new coaches coming into the field, because we have to hand the baton over at some point. We aren't going to be around forever. So yeah, that's the main area that I'm working in right now.
Okay. And what have been some of the highlights for you so far? Or what would you say comes to mind as one of your more satisfying experiences or sort of fulfilling moments?
Yeah, it's definitely the Women's Development Programme. That to me has been hugely satisfying, because you know it's created a community for the women to thrive in themselves. So, you know, on the back of that, there was something called Changing the Skyline created, which was a networking group. So building for women and changing the skyline. Helping the construction sector females go into schools to talk about what jobs are available, how females can get into the construction sector. So the community that's been created there has been fabulous, and they are reaping the rewards of coming together and thinking about what they can do for themselves now to help themselves. So, like I say, two shoots have come from that: Changing the Skyline and the Building for Women networking group, and the fact that, you know, it was really interesting, because the groups that I've taken through the program all said, you know, the biggest part of it is realizing that we're all so similar. And yet, until we came together and did this program, nobody was really talking to themselves. And a lot of them were, I wouldn't say struggling in silence, but they weren't coming forward and talking to other females about just how tough it is for them. So that for me has been hugely rewarding. Yeah.
Okay, you've just changed the face of construction now. I will all see your face when I think of construction workers, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what is next? I mean, it sounds like you're not about to jump onto that retirement thing anytime soon. So what's next? What are some of the projects that you see for yourself, and where do you think Gestalt can be going?
Okay. So one of the projects I've got that is on a burner. It's not. It is lit and it's on a burner. Is creating a supervision program for coaches to train as supervisors. And we're looking at with a colleague of mine of helping new coaches that are in India right now. So we're looking at how we can set up some sort of community which will help coaches to train as supervisors for the future. Talking to a couple of companies in India. So we've got the program's all ready to go. We've just applied to get CEE points attached to it. So because, you know, people like points. And so that's one program that I'm looking at doing. The other is I'd like to, in the next one after lockdown and when this has changed, I'd like to start running some retreats. especially for potentially my generation, you know, what's next. So, you know, thinking about what transition might mean or what you might want to be doing. So again, I've got a colleague and I who are looking at the possibility of setting something up in that arena, because I think that might be fun. That's a fun project, you know, sort of thinking about how that could evolve. I still will remain deeply committed to JISC and carrying on doing some workshops or courses there, and I may even get over to Cape Cod, you know, in the next 24 months. Who knows? We've still got that community running online. I'm still doing executive coaching because I really enjoy that. I'll probably step away from the, you know, sort of more organizational development or design route. But to be fair, I had no idea how these 12 months would go. You know, when we were locked down on the 23rd of March, you kind of thought that, oh, this is really interesting now, because I have no idea where this is going to go, what work I'm going to have. And I did think that I would have probably a really fallow year, but that's kind of not transpired. You know, I've still kept all my work going. A lot of it obviously is on Zoom. Now we are opening up in the UK. I'm doing my coaching outside in parks or wooded areas, so we're doing a lot of nature coaching as well. So that aspect is growing. How can we coach really well outdoors? So there's still lots of planning and plotting to do, and I'm just living the life at the minute. I am really enjoying what I'm doing, and you know, if it's not enjoyable, not doing it. You know, it's yeah, it's a nice place to be at, to say this is the work I really want to be doing right now.
And what do you think Gestalt can take either from this year or from this pandemic experience? What in general could be next for it?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts about that, you know, and you know, one of my greater thoughts is I think we need more younger people stepping forward. I think that, you know, my guides and mentors, you know, aren't going to be around forever, and I think that's why I'm really drinking hard at this well right now, because you know, it's harder for them to travel, or it's harder for them to just, you know, be able to do what they're doing. So I realise that I'm just really needing to drink hard at this well. There's some really bright buttons coming through in the Gestalt field, which is just fabulous, because yeah, I love the stories that, you know, Carol will tell around of Sonia and Ed, and feeling that I kind of missed out on all of that. So I'm wanting to grab what I can from Carol and Joe. But yeah, I do think that I think it needs I don't know. I was going to say a reignition, but it's not a reignition, but it needs yeah, there's just something that we need to be doing right now. Another one of my conundrums.
Okay. So something about bringing in the novelties.
Yeah. And bringing in you know, if I look in the UK, you know, I could look in the, you know, and I have looked in the UK, but I'm so much more attracted to the Cape and what that does, and you know, seeing how we can integrate it more into the UK would be brilliant. But I think that's happening. So I think I think there is that force now that's happening,
Mhm.
which I'm really pleased about.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of cross-pollination going on these
Yeah,
days. It's
yeah,
become
yeah.
inevitable.
Lovely word. Yeah, lovely word.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add right now? Anything that feels like a part of yourself has sort of been left out, or final thoughts?
No, I've just really enjoyed talking to you. It's been lovely. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's been nice to finally meet after a couple of false starts. It's been a very,
Yeah,
very lovely conversation. So thank you. Is it okay if we
thank
leave it
you.
here?